So website went live. Thank you for everyone's help. It's finally got there. And then I went live and realized, oh, actually, none of the form does anything. So I had to go do that. And so I had heaps of help from John, especially, which was great. But what I have here is the submit form flow, or part of it. Sets variable to do the successful receiving of your form type stuff, files the data away, and then I have this API flow that I can never get the send grid flow to work, like the action. It never sends emails for me. So I've got a webhook out of make.com and I'm just fleshing it out with the API action. And I hit the limit, the error message that comes up. Yep. And so did the set variable thing, which Drew had a video on, which is very helpful and sorted the problem. But it all fires off like an email through make.com and everything, but it's always firing off this one, where is it? This one here. Every time I submit all these other ones, it just sends this one record every time.
That usually means it's not finding the ID. Like usually the ID is incorrect, and like for whatever reason, that's the first one in the list, like in some crazy deep ordering that's not logical. I bet that's what it'll be, but yeah, you keep going.
Okay, so where am I? Because all the set variables are all around the field values.
Well, wherever you're looking for that record, so somewhere it's saying get it from the data collection where ID equals something. You know where that might be?
So I think, so they're all select collection variables for latest user, like current record value. Would that?
So is there a sign on this site?
No.
Okay, so yeah, well, is it current user value or current record value? That one's current record value.
Current record.
That might actually be correct.
Current record value. Yeah, they all are current record values.
What about where is it? Like wherever it finds that wrong record.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. So I'm not actually sure. I don't think it would come from. Oh, you're saying each of these is wrong?
Well, no, it's each of the set variables is coming from the current record value.
Oh, so the page probably doesn't have any context of the current record.
Yeah,
you knew the whole time, right? When I was trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I was just trying to understand the setup, because I think the easiest way is to just grab them directly from the inputs, right? Like we don't need variables.
So when I did that, the reason I did set variable, apart from the error I was getting, was that it was passing no data through to make.com. So all the fields were coming across but blank. So I thought, unless maybe the next action, which is delete the form, was running too quick. And was it deleting the form before it was grabbing the data?
I don't think
Possibly,
so.
But
because I don't think you're deleting the form, right? Like that's just native on this page, right?
Oh, so not delete the form, but reset the values to being blank.
Yeah, he's saying it clears out the values.
Oh, clearing them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could handle that with a wait at the end, but that shouldn't have caused any issue.
All right, so you reckon delete all these set variables and then just have this registering the actual field value?
Yeah, I would get it direct. The one thing I would do just to handle the issue with the number of mapped fields and values in the body is I would keep one of those set variables, but manually compose using the concatenate the actual object that you're going to send as the body. And you have to have a wait after that. And then this API call action, instead of using, you see where it says body, and to the far right of that text, it says JSON object.
Yep.
We'd actually change that completely to come from the variable that we're going to keep.
So what would be the action to be concatenate all those data into one variable, or just set variable and then just?
Yeah, just one of those. So I would delete all of them except one, and then make sure to have a wait before the API call runs.
It's working now though, right? Because you actually, like, what he's saying is correct, but you actually don't need to do that now because I think the API call is running now.
Oh, it is running.
Really,
So
all
he
you
might
do is
not hit the
each of those
limit.
set variables, just change the value to come from the element.
Okay, so rather than trying
we
to
can
find
try
current
that.
record, just from element value.
Yeah, as long as, because that API call is running, right? Like it's not too big now. You got it to save, right?
Yeah, only because I may had to have one of a set variable. But oh no, sorry. Yes, now it runs. Yeah, I get you. Yeah.
That's why, like, because like what Dorian's saying, you could actually save a ton more space and do it. But like, really, if it runs now, I don't think you need to even rearrange it.
Yeah, it's not that much, really. Yeah. I'm surprised I kind of hit the limit. Why would I hit the limit? Is that because I know the JSON was getting so big?
Well, the limit, it has to do with the, like, a lot of information that's in the input. It has to store a lot of more information if you're like pulling information from the database, for example, because it's storing the data collection, the filters, like all these different things, just so that I can recall it later. It's not even like the value. It's just like it has to save a bunch of extra. But to save a variable is really easy in the JSON. It's like 2 lines of JSON. So saving variables is really small amount in that JSON. It's kind of confusing, but it stems from a weird place.
Yeah.
No, all good. Okay, so instead of, all right, I'll have a play.
Well, if you want to try one of these, or if you want to try, because you said you couldn't get the from element value to work, we can get that to work, because that really, there shouldn't be a problem with that.
Do you want to try it right now?
Yeah.
Try what? Sorry.
To pull these from element value.
So change all these set variables, instead of coming from current record, change them from element, that first option, and then select its respective element.
Okay. This could take a while.
I see it right there. Yeah.
And then
pressure, I'm shaking.
Don't feel pressure, because there's only you and someone else on the agenda right now, so we've got time, unless someone else has questions or special requests.
I've got a question while I work on this. Is how long does it take to crawl, like for a new website to start the Google crawlers, whatever you call them, to actually what am I doing?
Potentially a long time, but we can definitely talk about some tips to help it crawl faster.
Because the new, obviously, sitemap thing that you, well, I really can't talk and do something at once. It was really helpful, but then, does that just have to wait? Is there any way to?
You generally have to wait, but there's a thing called Google Search Console. I won't tell you the details while you're doing this, but if
no, that's right. I've already got that going, so I can push that. I can push that to like look refresh or something.
I'm confused. I'm watching the screen, but I'm hearing a different conversation.
Yeah, this is fun. We're trying it. Did you submit the sitemap in Google Search Console? That's the thing that speeds it up. That's like the fastest way you can get Google to crawl.
Right. Okay. No, it just said come back in a day or so, and we've done the work.
You just set it up?
Yeah.
Okay,
like
so it'll crawl then.
Yeah, it will crawl. It takes like
a
day or two before you'll see results in there.
What am I even looking for? Wow. Give it up to women that can do so much at once. And
we could have even just tested it with like 1 or 2 of them, I guess.
Yeah, I thought that, but then who am I?
Better get it done.
Just get it all. Where's that subject? And then put a wait, because you want to make sure there's a wait, because you're setting all the variables and you don't want to run that API call until those are all done.
Okay, so refresh this, resume, and then put in heaps of rubbish. Oops. And then
That went
Worked.
fast. So did it work?
yeah,
Nice.
yeah. So now, I'm not sharing my window. Yeah. So now that the email came through perfect with that gibberish. Awesome.
All right.
Cool. All right.
So,
Thanks.
do you guys want to talk about Google Search Console and Sitemaps and how to get things to crawl a little bit faster? We've got Drew on the call. And
Well, the key is what I said was just to submit it. So there's a sitemap section in Google Search Console on the left. Click into sitemaps and then submit it. And as long as you do that, it'll crawl. But if you just set it up, it's the same thing. Like when you set it up new, it's gonna like put you in the queue to crawl it. So you're probably all good. Except to wait like a day or two. If you make other SEO changes, sometimes you have to wait months for it to crawl.
Google Search Console. Should we all know what that is already? Does everyone know what that is already?
It's a good thing to know for sure.
Yeah.
For SEO.
Should we just Google Search Console if we need
Yeah.
more?
I mean, Google runs it, so they pop it right up at the top with a big thing, and they make it really easy for you. Well, you put your website in there, and then it gives you like a lot of little SEO tools. I say little, I mean they're kind of like big SEO tools. It's definitely a useful tool that I use on every production site that I run.
Nice. Eggman, had you heard of that before?
I was trying to do two things at once again. Yeah, no, I'd already started yeah, submitted it and it was done. They come back in a day or so. I didn't know about the sitemap thing, but maybe if it doesn't work, then I'll just do that.
Okay.
Yeah, and it should
Because that's the-
technically even
point.
capture the sitemap for you.
Well, that's the whole point of the Bildr sitemap new function, right? That it does that job for you.
Yeah. You can speed it up by submitting it I guess, but yeah, technically it's the right format that Google looks for to find it automatically. You shouldn't actually have to do any of the Search Console stuff at all. It's just it usually helps.
Okay, because when I used it, I was looking through Discord and someone put up some sort of simulator that you put your URL in and then hit submit, and it came up with just like a heap of red, like not good red, like can't find anything to do with this.
I think that was actually before we made the sitemap changes. I think it might not be that message. I'm thinking of a different one, but there were like a series where people were showing screenshots of these tests, and we did like a bunch of research, and we ended up doing a bunch of changes that improved all that stuff for Bildr pages. But it was a little bit crazy.
Yeah, and just to know, there are some simulators that don't work properly, so it's not the same. Because I remember looking at some of those, and even after the changes, it still wasn't reporting the correct things. But when I processed it through Google's Search Console, it found everything good. And it's good to have that set up, because as you work on your site and it re-indexes things, you actually get emails. Like if you break something or recommendations, like, hey, you just dropped a new video on your website and it's not, So it's good to have it set up.
Google Search Console. Nice. Does anyone have questions on sitemaps or how to adjust those? Because in the last release we did, you can now control that at the URL route level. And I think, there's a new layout for it where you can kind of see everything that's included. You can filter out data now. So if you have particular records that you don't want to be included in the sitemap, you can filter all of that. So does anyone have questions on how that works or anything? Crickets.
We need to do a video on it because it's not really something people probably even know about a lot of the time, but it's useful for just controlling search SEO stuff.
Yeah. Well, Christopher is curious about how they work. Do you want to do just like could we do just like a general overview right now? I don't even think Prolax is on the call, and he's the only other person who had a question.
Yeah, let me see. I can probably pull something up here.
Yeah, I'm interested about the sitemaps, particularly for like the website or the blog project that I want to do. I want to be able to get everything ranked. So that's more of my take on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see.
It looks like the Whataburger logo.
I think this
Which I'm just itching for your little videos you're gonna make on the how to make the blog, Drew, someday. Some glorious day when they finally come out.
I know. I really want to do that. This is actually this site that I just pulled up is that site. Like it has
Oh,
that, it has a Coda blog in it. Let's see. What am I doing here? Sitemap. I'm trying to think of the best way actually to start this, because Sitemap, this is like a kind of a tricky new feature because it spans like a bunch of features. It's like spans all these different parts of a web page. But what we have is there's the sitemap stuff, and it relates to what we're calling like meta or like social sharing. So we have this button. If you're on a page, you go to page properties, we have this button for social sharing settings. And so this is going to create like the page title, a description, the image when you share it, the fave icon in the URL for this page. And you can make them dynamic, and you can do like combinations of dynamic and static. So like for a blog, so actually, before I talk about what this is, let me just click into one of these blogs. So for like a blog, oh, I don't actually have it set up through this interface. I'm sorry, it's not going to work on the site. But basically, like for a blog, I have it set up to say, you know, work and whistle blog dash the blog title. That's set up. I set it up manually because I know how to do it, but you can set that up through this interface in here in the title. So there's a lot you can do basically in this section. And what that's going to do is that's going to inform this sitemap section, which I should probably maybe open another project because these would be filled in if you have all that SEO information filled out. So you can kind of look at this and like, we've got things that are grayed out, things that are locked, you need to be authenticated. And then things that are active are the things that are included in your sitemap. So it's kind of like, I feel like this is a really confusing explanation.
Yeah, okay, let's just zoom out just a smidge.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Zoom out. We've got sitemaps. What are sitemaps?
Great point. So the sitemap, what it is like from a technical perspective, there's a file, it's an XML file that you call sitemap.xml. And it's just a list of all the pages on your site. And it includes like a little bit of information about them. So you can include when they're last updated, how frequently they're updated, I think. But basically, it's just like a tree of all the pages on your site. And you use that for like Google or other search engines. They can use that file to know exactly where all your pages are. And they don't need to actually crawl your site and find all your links on their own. They're listed for them right there.
Gotcha. And so that helps when someone is searching to be able to maybe have something pop up in the search results related to
it helps Google index it, which is what helps in the searching. So when Google first finds your homepage, they don't know about any of your other pages. But if you have a sitemap, they instantly know about all the pages on your site, and they index them all so that people will find them. And the reason some of these are grayed out is because you actually don't want Google to index some of your pages.
Correct.
So like I've got pages on here like /admin. That's like an admin page, and I don't want Google to index it. I don't want it to be searchable. So I actually excluded it from the sitemap, which, like I said, this spans a couple of things. So there's a whole other thing in.
Yeah, so let's pause right here
URLs.
at let's pause at the URL route level. Okay, so you've got your pages in the app that are front facing and visible, right? Those all have routes. Okay, so you at the route level, you can go in there and say, I want this on the sitemap, or I don't want this to appear on the sitemap. So that's the setting that Drew is pointing out right there, where you can include it or not include it. If you do choose to include it, you can, I believe there are some additional options that you can select. If you have dynamic data set up. If you have dynamic data, you know, that toggle right there, dynamic page data on the route. If that is set up, you do have some additional options to be able to filter the specific data records that are available in the sitemap. Okay, so you can filter. So that's one way that you can control what appears in the sitemap, is at the URL route level. Then the kind of separate thing that Drew was, or separate but related, that Drew was showing us was at the page property level. That at that level, you can set those things he was talking about, like the social sharing meta tags, where you can, you know, set those little icons to appear, or page titles. All of that you can set up here. And then when you're talking about the blogs having their own individual things, Drew, is that you would set that in that first field for page title dynamic, or where would you kind of adjust that setting?
At first I didn't want to mess with this because this is my live site, but I think this won't matter. So let me just show it. But like, so this is like a title right now. If this isn't, I'm not using this, remember, if I were using this to set it, which I would now in the future, I just did this before this existed. This right here, this title is like static. You just type it in. I can say like, make it dynamic, and then I can add in, so I can say like, it would be, you know, blog dash space, and then I can say blog posts slug. And so that would create, like, on these pages, they're dynamic pages for each blog post. That would create the title for whatever one is, blog dash whatever that one's, oh, I did slug, but it would be title, whatever that one's title is. And you can just like chain a bunch of these together, you know, static and dynamic. And you can do the same thing for, like, for this blog, the share image is the blog header image. So it's like if someone shares one of my blog posts on social media, the image that shows up is automatically whatever's from in the database as the share image, because it's dynamic.
Nice. Okay, so those are like the two main levels. And then what we were seeing, so at the page properties and then the URL routes, and then what we were seeing is Drew created this awesome kind of overview of the sitemap stuff. If you go to the sitemap page, that's this kind of bigger view where you can see what are the routes that are active, what pages are they associated to, and what pages are they associated to, and then I think that's all that you can see. Yeah, whether that page requires auth or not, that kind of thing. So yeah, there is a little bit in there, but the whole goal of it, I believe, is kind of marketing, right? Is it helps visibility and people to be able to get to your site.
Yeah, SEO, it's like a technical type of marketing, you know, because it's marketing, but it's really actually just making sure you're able to be found on the internet.
Yeah. And so I think one of the questions that I have is, when you're determining whether a page should be included on the sitemap or not, what do you think about, Drew and Dorian? What do you choose to exclude specifically?
Yeah, for starters, it'd be
Kind of
any admin pages, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like internal pages that you don't want to be crawled or indexed, so that if people search your site, they don't find those, you know.
Yeah, and there's also like we put a lock icon and gray out anything that you need authentication. So if you have a route where you set a URL route, you can set an authenticated page and unauthenticated page. The authenticated page, none of the crawlers can actually get to because they can't enter a username and password. So we gray that out and exclude it from the sitemap as well. You actually get like penalized if you have extra things in your sitemap that Google can't crawl, or if you make Google do extra work, essentially, they'll penalize you. So we just remove those from the sitemap. And then admin pages, like Dorian said, and then there's also like, imagine if you have blog posts and they only show up on the site if they have a column that's called active and you set it to 1. So it's like only certain blog posts show up, some other ones are drafts. You would want to exclude those draft blog posts from the Google, from the sitemap, because you wouldn't want Google to be indexing draft blogs and showing them to people in search results because they're not live, stuff like that. Hold on.
So to exclude those specific records, you would go into the URL route, and then in the dynamic data setting, that's where you would set up a filter for not whatever the field is inactive.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right here.
Yeah.
And I don't have that set up in this project, but it would say, you know, where active equals 1 or something.
Okay. So what we'll have to do, obviously, is and I think we have an overview video on this, but I think it's like a real general one. But yeah, we'll probably have to like set it up and then it was in the release notes, Drew, the release notes when we roll this out.
Right.
So yeah, we'll just need to get it set up and do an actual tutorial around it. But Christopher, how do you feel about that in relation to your blog?
Yeah, that was a good overview. Like from my other background of having done other stuff on the web, I get how it works. So I think if somebody else is brand into it, they might want a little bit more information, but I totally get it just by him thinking around and showing me how to do the settings. Or got such code brain on it. I haven't talked to anybody for a while. He was able to show how to dynamically and also statically set up the right information that would go into the sitemap. So that was very helpful. And also how to do the filtering based on if it's if it's active or not.
Yeah, I'm
nice,
guessing
nice
with your
overview for
blog,
me.
Yeah, I'm guessing with blogs, you do generally have you want to control when it goes live or when it's visible, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the way we've done it before is we have a field called inactive, and or I think it's naturally inactive, and then we've got a button, I think, internally where we click post and then it makes it active. So
you're talking about for your own site.
For our blogs,
Yeah.
our blog that we have, yeah. For that one, it's a super simple setup. We just have like a UI, and that's pretty much what it does is, we have to post it, and then I'm pretty sure it does something like that.
Yeah, I'm excited. The Bildr is it's gonna go great places. It's got lots of things we got to build into it, so it gets a little more easy to use. But you got the bones in place, which is nice.
Yeah, definitely have the bones in place. And there's so much, like, this year is going to be really fun. I think because so much of the hard work is the framework stuff, and sure, we've got residual bugs and that'll get knocked out, but now we're starting to get into a place where we can really do innovative stuff.
They're not bugs, they're features. They're to help us learn to grow personally. So as we
Chris, you ought to be on every
able to go
call.
like, oh yeah, the world's okay.
So yeah, I think that's what I'm most excited about this year, is it feels like we get to be in a really innovative place with features specifically. And like, now that you have the bones in place, you can do stuff like optimization, and everyone knows we would love everything to be faster. So that's a good goal for us this year. Everything faster, everything smoother, easier. Yeah, let's do something a little easier. What can we make easier? So yeah, we're on a good path. So if we're good on sitemaps, then I think, Eggman, you got something else?
Yeah, just around the contact form submission.
Yeah.
I've got like an initial contact selection, so you can choose which kind of where you want to direct your message. It's like 5 people on there. Eventually, it'll be cool to have an admin space where someone else other than me can update who those people are as time changes. At my best, how would I get like an if-then kind of scenario to, if minister's selected, it's going to fire off a message to him, whoever that is. Is it? Yeah. Where would I do that? Would I have like a API flow for each one based on an if-then, or?
It's the same form though, right? Like everything's the same except that person.
Yeah.
I would create a database of the people, so you can have like name, title, email, or whatever you would want, whatever you might be displaying. And then in the drop down, you're just displaying from that data collection. That's how you populate the drop down. And the value is their email. So if you say get like from element value and select the drop down, whatever one's selected, their value is going to be the email. So that's like the to field. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. Okay. Fantastic. Awesome. That was easy.
Is that, you're talking about like when in your contact form, the person who's sending the email gets to choose who they send it to?
Yeah, like an initial kind of, I got, well, who would like to contact? And you got a list. Or would you like more information? And then it comes up with what type of information do you want? The whole process is that we can automate that flow, hopefully, so that the emails coming back are more directed for what they actually want. But one thing I have with Bildr is I tend to overthink things. And I think, yeah, like that drop down that was populated from a collection's probably a better way of doing it than having a whole heap of, if this selected, then send to this kind of flows. Is that what you're saying?
You could do that, but then it's not easy to update. That's the trade-off.
That's right. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you knew it was set in stone, it might actually be faster to do a bunch of if-thens.
Okay. But no, that I like your way better, as always. Fantastic.
Well, I think that's it. This is an important conversation for us too, because I think we've been trying to, yes, we all know that there's a million different ways that you can do something in Bildr. And part of that is the power, but part of that can also be problematic. Like you were saying, it's so easy to overthink things when there's a million different options to do something. So I think we are also going to start saying, well, here's our opinion. I think before we've been super unopinionated about stuff and be like, well, you can do it this way and you can do it this way, but it really depends on your use case. And yes, that's true. But I think we're trying to also be like, here's how we would do it. Like,
I'm trying to get better for sure.
Way.
Josh was like, one answer, one way. And I was like, no, but what if he's like one way? I was like, all right.
But there isn't one way, but you know what? There's probably an easy way. And I think that's probably what we should be sharing and starting off that way. And then if that doesn't solve or accommodate for it, then we can be like, okay, well, there's also this super powerful, flexible way that you can do it. So that's also just, I think it's just part of our culture is we are very like self-sufficient. We don't want to tell you how to do something. We'd rather just give you the floor for you to decide. But I also think that there's room for us to kind of be like, hey, we've been doing this for a long time. We do have wisdom in the best ways to do things, and it's okay to share that.
Yeah, please don't assume my programming ways. Don't assume anything. That's so rude.
Exactly.
I do not wish to be rude, so we'll just share what we know, and if you guys want a different way to do that, then yeah, let's do it. But yeah, there's still a lot of learning for us on that front. It's like the best way of disseminating information for something that's complex. Jeff, I was just reading your comment. Let's see. Guidance on design. That's an area where I think seeing templates examples would be really helpful. Yes. There have been some new templates that have been added in, but they're project level templates. I don't know if you've seen Mullen Light or Mullen Dark, and there's a design kit
We just need way more of them
in there as well. What we need is there needs to be a different method, because right now some of the things are project templates, and then you also have page templates like landing pages. And you see some blocks for heading, things like that in there. And then we also have patterns, right? That can be UI kits or full on build outs of little things. And so I think when we're working through some of the redesigns of making things simpler, part of that will be kind of like combining or arranging those things so that if you need to easily pull something, whether it's just pages or something, there's a way to do it where you don't have to think, oh, I want to use this from this, but I got to start from this project. I can't just pull in that one page, that kind of thing. So we'll revise that, and hopefully that'll be a little bit easier. But yeah, Drew's the man as far as design questions go, how to approach something. I mean, he's amazing. I would always
such a hard question though. I appreciate the compliment. It's such a when to help with design, it's so situational, but
yeah.
I do think templates would be an enormous help. And the other thing that's worth mentioning is we have some pretty cool AI stuff going right now that we're going to release sooner than later, where it's if you want to style a button, instead of caring about any of the CSS or knowing anything, you can just say make this button look modern and have a drop shadow and be blue, and it'll just give you the styles. We already have that function working, so that's coming, and we're going to try to eliminate some of the challenges that way, because really it's no matter how many templates and all that we can give you, you still have to learn CSS, and it's such a big barrier, so hopefully we can kind of tackle it from the other way and eliminate some of that learning.
Yeah. So Eggman, to your question, we need a video on an ad sample. No, you don't. You need this AI thing that's just going to do it for you. You don't need to learn how to do it,
Yeah, just say that before. I spent ages writing that text trying to listen at the same time.
So you guys, thanks for hanging in there while we get some of these things out, because I do think, like, you know, the less time you have to spend knowing the stuff you don't, or learning, you know, you can actually learn things that'll make you more powerful, where you can build farther versus getting stuck on some of these smaller things. So yeah, I like that. Jeff is like, I'm just gonna type and make this look good.
Yeah, you can.
I was
do
like
it.
thinking, I was like, wonder if that worked.
works.
I'm gonna try that in the thing we built, like a little test thing, see if that does anything good. That'd be awesome.
It actually does. I've tried it. Like throwing in those little keywords on the prompt makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna have to do a course on how to prompt engineer the AI styling in Builder. Okay, so let me look at time. We've got 20 minutes left. Christopher Browning, do you want to come back up? It looks like you wanted to chat more about block structure.
Yeah, Drew, I got a couple questions. First of all, are you ever going to do anything with that snowboard in the back of your corner? Or is it just going to hang out there and it'll be a pretty prop?
I think it's so funny because it's not like I have a different snowboard. It's just like I bought this as like a show thing.
Oh, you
and I
did,
have
really?
Yeah, like it's just like it's my NFT. So like that guy, like no one could buy this snowboard except me because I had the NFT, and it was a limit. They got me basically because it was like limited time, and I just really wanted it. But I actually like checked this box for like finish it for display versus finish it for writing.
Oh, seriously, that is
It was
funny.
so funny. So it's not waxed and the edges aren't sharp and like all this stuff. So it was like I eliminated even the chance of me writing it unless I go get a team.
Ah, that's funny.
Very funny.
All right, serious
Art.
questions. Thanks for humoring on that. You were talking about either using Notion or what was the other choice for
Coda is what I used for mine. Coda
Would
and
you-
Notion are so similar. I like use them interchangeably almost. Yeah.
Okay. How are you connecting? Is it possible for you to show me just really quickly a high overview of how you connect either Notion or Coda to Builder? And I think that's what I need. And if I can figure out that part, I can run with it.
Let me see if I can open it. I'm not sure what's going on with my computer right now. It's like sort of half
You
frozen.
like show it and then hit the screen. It's weird.
Well, Drew's trying to pull that up. I just want to read Prolax's question just to see if we can answer it or not, if he's not in the call. But he's asking about walking through an example of using a serverless function to import NPM packages and how to trigger that from a flow action. Is that anything we can chat about generally, or would we need to be looking at his project to kind of help?
Show generally, right? Like just,
Yeah, I think we would need to look at it because every is just JavaScript, right? So
to go the whole way, we definitely need to look at
yeah,
it.
and like I don't know what package
He's
he's
like-
using. There's thousands of packages.
Okay, gotcha. He's saying, in particular, I'm trying to achieve this. I've explored using CDN JS files over NPM, but the way this package work makes that seemingly impossible. The only way I believe I could get it to work with CDN JS would be with script tag import map tags, but that won't work in Builders. The import map script has to run before any script type module tags, which I can't control as Builder automatically runs the script type module tag before anything else is run.
Yeah, you definitely have to do it through a serverless function, which does support full NPM. You can even go as far as controlling the version that it's targeting and everything. But to execute, once you have that function written, there is a flow that you have to use that will trigger that. And I think that's the part he's missing. Maybe Drew, really quick on that add actions. Can you just click that and then search maybe serverless? I can't remember. It's been a while since I've used those. Snug claims.
Run? Maybe should we search for run?
Search for run, maybe. It's not that. Keep going down.
Run JavaScript function?
No. Yeah, I'd have to go look at a
Okay.
setup. I have a project where I'm using NPM packages. I think it was like the first method of integrating with Stripe where we implemented in that method. It's just been a while.
Okay,
But I'll have to go research that, and then I can get you the information core and you can get it back to them.
that sounds awesome. Thanks, Dwayne. All right, back to Christopher.
So for this blog, what I did first is this is Coda, but Notion's the same thing where you can like put a table into a document. So I have like this thing called content library, and I have this table here, and then like each table you can open it up to like the article. So if you set it up this way, that's kind of what they want you. Like when I actually didn't like invent this, I read through their docs, and like they want you to do this to set up a blog this way. So I just kind of followed. But if you do that, it's just this one API call. So I use the generic API action in Bildr, and I did a call to, so for this one, it's like Coda/API with like my ID for my, I don't remember exactly what these even are. And then that gives me a list of all my blog posts. So if I go to here, this is like super bare bones because it's for me, so I didn't really pretty it up. But this is a list of all my blog posts that are in this Coda table.
Okay.
And what I do, the reason I do that this way is because in here I have this button. So if they're not published, it'll say publish to site. And that means basically I haven't taken it from Coda into my site. If I have published it before, there's a different button that says update from Coda that will like update the content. Because what I'm actually doing is I'm taking an article that's in here, that's written in all these fields, and just putting it into this data collection blog posts. So I'm basically just copying it into Bildr.
You're taking the API, inserts it into your collection.
Yeah, well, so the API will list everything in the table, including like the full article, the title, like everything is a separate field. So I've got like title, author, like all these different things. And the API just gets me that list. And then when I click pull into site, that's where it takes just one of those entries and creates a Bildr data collection entry.
Okay.
And the reason I do that, like the main important reason, is then for SEO and for your URLs and dynamic routes in Bildr, you get all this built-in benefit from Bildr. Because in theory, you could have it all running off of Notion or running off of Coda, where you just call the API for that blog post and you pull that post content in. And if you want to change it, you change it right in Notion or Coda. I took the extra step in mind to actually like pull it into Bildr first, and it has a lot of benefits. And I think it's like, that's how I would advise anyone to do it, because it's been super useful.
Okay.
Hopefully that makes sense. Does that you have a question on that part?
That gives me a starting point to start tinkering around with it, and then I'll have more questions later on, but there's no point in me asking more until I get past that point.
Yeah, I mean, and once I don't know if you've set up dynamic routes or any of that stuff yet, but like once you get past that part, you just have like a database of blog posts. And so the page that you create, like I have this page here that loads into post info, like it's very straightforward. It's just a dynamic route. And then I'm just binding the title, the image, the article. The Coda gives you the article in Markdown format.
Okay.
So that's like the trick there to formatting it. You don't have to do it that way. You could make it more complicated, but I just did Markdown. So when it comes in, I have there's a Markdown display element we have.
Markdown's perfect. So AI is going to be writing most of the stuff, and then Markdown.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's the displaying the individual blog post makes sense. I figured that's the way it was done. But okay, that gives me a good starting point. Thank you.
And I will do, like, I am looking to, I think I mentioned in Discord, but it's like, it's too much for a tutorial almost. And I feel like it needs to be like a workshop, but either way, I want to figure out what it is and get this content out, because I think a lot of people can use this.
I think a lot of people will use it, and eventually I mean, I'm not building you guys as a roadmap of what you can do, but I can definitely see this would be like just a standard, something that you'd put on there that everybody can use.
Drop it on.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you, Drew. We do have a couple other questions. We have about 10 minutes left before pro office hours kicks off. Let's see. Z Spaceman has a quick API setup question. Are you good to share your screen? Are you ready to chat about that?
Yeah. Hold on one
Let's do it.
second.
And then Paul has a question as well about nested categories. So we might be able to talk through that.
Okay, are we good? We can
Yep.
see it? Okay. All right, so this is not the app that I'm working on. I just set this up. So be careful with the design. So basically one of the sections of the app I'm working on is podcast. And it's not only podcast, but it's got YouTube, basically it's creators, right? And all their different sections that they showcase on. One of the things that I have found is this site called Listen Notes that basically pulls APIs of podcasts and things like that. I have no idea how to set this up. So my question really is like, okay, I'm in a show. This is a blank template, right? How would I go about saying, I click this button, there's an event, it's going to load the the show, to get the latest show, I'm trying to keep the people on the site. I could direct them to the Apple Podcast, the Spotify, whatever, but just sitting them everywhere is not going to do me any good. So I'm trying to keep them on the site. So it's like, okay, load the podcast on the site. Do I build data collections for that? How do I kind of go about that? Just best practices.
Are you getting the podcast list from an API? Is that what you mean originally?
Yeah. So, right now I've got I don't know, say 30 creators that I'm just finding. And then they're all their shows are listed in here. So I can take the API or their ID per se and plug that in.
Yeah. If I don't know what API it is or what they're giving you, but usually if you have a podcast API that's giving you all the episodes, they might just give you the MP3 file. And in that case, you can just play it directly.
Won't
through the
that
site.
just load my site up with data though? I'm trying to keep it.
You go through the API and you don't save that data. You don't need to save that data ever. You just call to the API. It's going to give you a list of their shows. And if one of those is a link to an MP3 file, the audio player can play it from a link. You don't need to put the actual file on your site or anything. It can just play as long as the end is .mp3. It'll just play it for you.
Yeah, and it will play other formats. The key thing there will be that because you're getting the response through an API, most likely it's a JSON object. So you might have to use some path to target that specific nested property where it has that video file URL, or audio file, I guess in this case.
Okay. Well, I'm going to have a ton of questions on this site. So I'll just let this one go and start messing things up and then get on the Discord from there.
We did not help him at all.
It's all good.
Yeah, and I think the screen share was frozen, or we're seeing the different.
Oh, really?
Because all we could see is the
I think we were
player
missing the
pause filled.
context.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's a bummer. All right. Well,
I didn't even realize I was just looking at that screen.
Oh, man. All right. Well, till next time. Appreciate it.
Sorry, Spaceman. John, what's your question on sitemaps?
So the walkthrough is good. If I go to my site.com/sitemap.xml and it pulls up the sitemap like it's supposed to. You had mentioned that the ones that are in there in Bildr that have access by them are the ones that are excluded from the sitemap.
No, everything has an X on it. It's the ones that are excluded are the ones that are grayed out.
Okay.
I think what's the red X for? That's to remove it.
If you know, that's actually really great feedback that it looks like a thing to remove it. It didn't occur to me. But the red X actually means you didn't set your share image and your icon and all that. You set all those and then you publish them. So it means you didn't actually publish those SEO settings.
So how do we remove those from the sitemap?
Under the
Perfect.
URL route is, I think, where you'd remove all the different kinds, because the URL route specifically, so for that exact one, there's a little toggle by the actual route that says include in sitemap, and you can toggle it on or off.
Got it.
Mhm.
And it will require a publish if you're trying to get that out to a live deployment.
And then I guess from there to if anybody else was curious, like, because you mentioned pulling the sitemap file down, like you'd have to download that file, that XML file. I guess you could actually just copy the text out of it and put it into a text file .xml or whatever, and then upload it to Google so you can trigger that
Mhm.
crawl.
Yeah, and you can just give Google the URL too. Like you can upload it and do that, but they'll let you just type in your URL /sitemap and it'll find it.
Yeah, and one thing I think we forgot to mention actually on the sitemap is by default, the development deployment has the sitemap turned off. That's intentional because usually as you're working things, you don't want that being crawled, but you can turn it on if that's the site you're using. Just a small little thing to note.
Yeah,
The
if
key
you try
there
to
is you
click
don't
the
want
sitemap
duplicate.
link, it just goes back to your home page in the preview. If you have it off. Sorry, Witcher.
Sorry. For what Dorian was saying, the key, there's like a big SEO penalty for duplicate content. So it's actually really important that if you have a live site on a domain, your development version's on a different Bildr subdomain. If you have duplicate content, you're going to get penalized by Google. So you always want your sitemap off on development specifically.
Okay, that's good to know. So we've got 2-3 minutes left. I'm not the best at math. Paul had a question. He was asking if we had a pattern or we could talk about the best method to create nested categories for a directory listing type of site. Maybe we might need some more information on nested categories.
Yeah, essentially it's just a grid within or I guess it's now a repeating list within a repeating list.
So repeating list element, and then what do you mean within?
So the page that the first repeating element
The
is
row
pointing
page?
to, yeah, the row page also has another
Oh.
repeating.
The row page is pointing to a page that is a repeating list.
Yeah, so like the first one is like the most parent level of your main category. And in there you'll list or set your data. And that's going to load each list row that also has another repeating list in it, where that repeating list is only loading the children of that parent that you're on.
The parent category.
And there's no like limits. You can go as far as you need to.
Okay. So maybe Paul, I'm not sure if you were able to share your project or maybe on next time, but if you need any more guidance on that, you're more than welcome to chat us your preview ID or what you're working on, and we can look and kind of tailor the advice to be specific to your setup. Well,
And then I did get the answer to the serverless functions on how to execute them. It's actually, you just use the standard API call. The key thing to do there is for the URL, it defaults to text, so you can type it in. You actually change the input type from text to secrets, because when you publish a serverless function, what that does is it actually creates a secret with that URL. And that's essentially how you target it. So when you toggle the URL input argument on the API call to secrets, you'll see it in the list there. It just uses the name of the function that you named it, followed by a unique ID. And you just select it, and then that will target that specific serverless function.
Okay, right on, Dorian. Thank you. Great. Well, we're wrapped. We'll see you next week. I'll upload this as soon as I can. Chat us in Discord if you have anything else. And goodbye and have a wonderful rest of your day.
See ya.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.